Hi, folks, and welcome. This is Inside the Leader's Mind, where what's in the way becomes the way. I'm your host, David Suson, and I am so excited to have our guest today. This is Ben Walker. He's the CEO and founder of Ditto Transcripts in Denver, Colorado. And Ditto provides premium transcription services to the legal, law enforcement, medical, academic, and general business industries. They have been in business since 2010, and they have clients all over the U.S. Welcome, Ben, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, David.
I'm excited to talk to you about this. I'd love to just get started. I know in the intro it tells a little bit about Ditto, but for someone who's never heard of Ditto transcripts, when someone asks you, so what do you do? How do you answer that?
We help our clients run their offices better, is the general overarching theme that you can say for most of our clients. Because we run in the background as a service that helps them get things done.
Doing transcription.
Yes, providing transcription services. So for a doctor that sees, say, 40 patients a day, he'll dictate 40 notes and then keep going. He won't have to stop because it'll take him, 60 to 90 seconds to dictate a note and then see the next patient. And then we'll be working in the background to make sure that all his patient charts are caught up. Or for, say, a detective that's working a double homicide and interviews, 7 or 8 people in regards to that investigation, we'll transcribe all those interviews so that he can keep going or she can keep going with her investigation and not have to sit behind a computer for 2 days and transcribe because they're not good transcriptionists. They're there to do investigations, not to type and do data entry. And in the academic world, it would be the same for like a researcher or a PhD candidate that conducts focus groups. They don't have time to sit around and transcribe, 20 hours of focus groups because it would take them probably 2 months to do that work, where it would take us 2 weeks. And it will come
Got
back
it.
perfect when we do it.
Got it. So you mentioned a couple industry, right? Medical, legal, academic. What are some other industries or some weird, bizarre things you maybe have done?
Oh man. Ah, some of the stories are not safe for the general public. Um, but there are some very crazy off the wall law enforcement and legal related transcriptions we've done, interviews with, alleged murderers or somebody who robbed a 7-Eleven that was high on heroin, and the 7-Eleven, this is an example I think I'm safe to say because it was probably 10 years
Be
ago and there
careful.
wasn't
Don't
enough.
say anything that's going to
Yeah.
put you in.
Yeah, this won't. It was at least 10 years ago and it was in another state. So, anyway, someone was attempting to rob a 7-Eleven and the clerk knew who the guy was even though he had a mask on because he'd been in there many times before. He lived in the area and he pretended as if he had a gun in his pocket and it was really his hand, used pointing at the clerk and saying, "Give me all your money." And the clerk said, "Hey, Bill, I know it's you. Just leave. I don't want to have to call the police." And he wouldn't leave. So they called the police, and the police came and obviously arrested him because he was out of his mind. And while in the interview room, he was handcuffed to the table because he was, not happy to be there. And there were two detectives sitting across the table from him, and it was a metal table, like very similar to the movies. And he started puking, but he couldn't
Hmm.
get up because he was handcuffed to the table. And the puke hit the table and we could hear it on the audio, the puke hitting the table and then splattering all over and the detectives jumping up out of their chairs going, "Oh my god, he's puking." Like, that was one of the more funny stories I remember from
Yeah.
all the work.
And do you work other industries?
Yeah, we work with a lot of universities. like I mentioned before with the PhD candidates or
Research,
research.
yeah, yeah.
We've worked with museums, helping them digitize their audio archives into text, sometimes from foreign languages into English. Like we've helped. I can't I can't say the name of this museum because the exhibit isn't out yet, but we helped them. I have to be kind of vague too. I'm sorry. We helped them.
Be vague. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, we helped them translate and transcribe uh, 80 years of handwritten letters that
My
were written
gosh.
from all over the world and started in Europe. And the family ended up in the US. And it is three generations of this particular family. And they got split up during World War II. And it's it's real life and real life problems in these letters
That is so
spanning the
cool.
globe. Like
That is
some of
so
them
cool.
are from, ships crossing the Atlantic or ships crossing the Pacific. Like, yeah, it's that was really interesting, and that was with the museum on the East Coast. Lots of law enforcement agencies, sheriff's offices, police departments, and doctors'
So,
offices all over the country.
all right, so I got to ask you. So you grow up, and then you're in fifth grade, thinking, "I want to run a transcription." No. How did you get? I never would have thought of. How did you get into doing this and into having the business?
So I was previously working for a bank selling mortgages, and I did not enjoy the transactional nature of that because it was you do the deal and then you're done, and you don't see him again. And subconsciously, I knew I wanted to be in a job that was more relationship oriented and long term and recurring clients. After doing a bunch of research, I realized that the healthcare industry was going to be pretty big and pretty prevalent in the US because of the baby boomer generation and how large it was. And they were going to need services of all kinds. So after doing that research, I happened to be back at home. I'm from Omaha, and I was out to dinner with my parents, and they were talking about a friend of theirs who was starting a medical transcription company. And I said, I want in. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, I want in healthcare, and I can't get a healthcare job. I was trying to get a pharmaceutical job or a medical device rep job, and I couldn't get one because I didn't have any experience, and no one would hire me to get me experience. So when they said medical transcription, and then I knew immediately what that was because I remember our primary care doc dictating. I said I wanted in, I wanted to meet their friend. And he happened to be flying through Denver a couple weeks later on an international trip. And he had a 4 hour layover and came outside of security and met me at one of the coffee shops at DIA. And we talked for a couple hours and then started the business like a month later.
That is so cool. Is it what you expected it would be? Is it more interesting? Is it more, it's almost a little bit of voyeuristic in a way. How do you feel about it? Because some people would think, oh, all you're doing is, typing or writing. So what have you experienced?
Well, when it was a medical transcription business only, and we had doctors' offices and surgery centers and hospitals as clients, I would go to medical conferences and meet the higher ups in the medical world. So I would go to conferences like the Colorado Medical Group Management Association, and they had two conferences a year. And then I volunteered to be on the board as a supplier vendor type, and they chose me to be on the board. So I was on the board for 5 years, meeting all the people that ran all kinds of different doctors' offices. Then I joined the Colorado Association of Healthcare Executives, and same thing, joined the board as a supplier, met all the executives from all the hospitals and large entities. And that was what I thought it would be. It was medical conferences with intelligent people, well educated, well dressed, well spoken. You created really good relationships that lasted a long time because they see the value in your work. Once you get an opportunity, you get your foot in the door, and those stayed clients for a long time. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be around highly educated people that speak well and they see value in service and a good service, and they'll stay with you for a long time. But as doctors changed and they don't dictate as much, they do a lot more pointing and clicking. So we kind of morphed into a more full service company doing legal, law enforcement, academic, some insurance, transcription. That's different because it seems a little bit more back to the transactional nature where we don't meet those clients as much in person because they could be in Chicago or Dallas or Miami, and they frankly don't care if we meet them. They find us online, they call us or they email us and sign up. So that's a little different. It's not the
Interesting.
same relationship building type. I mean, we still, best we can, create relationships via email and on the phone. It's not the same as what the medical was, though.
Interesting. So I'm going to circle back to that in a little bit, but we got to talk about the elephant in the room. And that is a lot of people here, excuse me, a lot of people hear AI transcription, right? It's everywhere. AI is amazing. These calls, when I do a podcast, my coaching calls with like it's transcribed. So when they hear this, right, they assume your world is either solved or threatened. And from where you sit, what do you think most people misunderstand about what your clients actually need?
They don't understand what a perfect transcript looks like in real life, like a real, legit, perfect transcript, where, say, it's a legal hearing, and on the left of the page, it says David Susan, and then dot dot space, and then it literally verbatim says what we type out what you say, and then the next line it says Ben Walker dot dot space and what I said, and it's all exactly perfect verbatim with the correct punctuation and spacing. We include spots where it's indecipherable or we can't tell what it says, whereas AI will make something up or not put anything or put something that's so wrong that wasn't even part of our conversation. Our transcripts are literally perfect and they're perfectly formatted for whatever court system it is or law enforcement entity or university. Some universities have different requirements where the full name is all caps and underlined, whereas another one is all caps and bolded. Like AI doesn't do any of that. AI messes up you and I. It messes up men and women. Like our transcripts don't ever do that. Like because it's people that can tell the difference.
Well, let's dive off on that just a little bit more. You work with all these organizations where it matters, right? Medical, research, legal, and because every word matters, what kind of pressure does that put on you and your team to when you think about accuracy?
That's a really good question because kind of forgot about that. I get so used to everything being done right. Our transcriptionists are very good at their jobs. They're unbelievably good at their jobs. And if something comes back with errors in it, they're told to tell us, and then we forward it to a proofreader who works for us, and they check it over. And if they still have issues with it, maybe the audio's bad or there's too many people speaking over each other, background noise, all those different things, then they'll flag it for us. And then we tell the client, like, we're sorry, David, there was so much background noise at the 6 minute mark in Ben's podcast that we couldn't hear anything for a minute and a half. We're sorry. And we'll tell them. There is a lot of pressure. It's also the job, and they know that. Like, the transcriptionists know that they are expected to do perfect every day, and that what they do has ramifications beyond their computer. Like, if it goes back to a law enforcement agency, it affects that detective. It also affects the families involved with that investigation, that detective's district attorney, the judge, the defense attorney. Like, there are so many parts to the process that they know they're a small piece of that whole thing and that they have to do good every time.
Mm, do most of the people that do this type of work, is this the type of person where they feel that not commitment, not pressure, but they feel that pride of getting it right? Or do you get transcribers that are, it's a part-time job, I don't really care, it's not a big deal? What's been the typical um, type of person that you work with, or what's it been like to find them? Tell me a little bit about that.
It's more like what the first person you described, the ones that take pride in getting the work done and getting it right. Those are the kinds of people that stay with us for a long time. The ones that aren't perfectionists and don't have that same want to help people and to do a good job every time, we get rid of them as quickly as possible. And they kind of expose themselves early on in the process when we're testing them before we let them loose on client work. They'll send emails that kind of trigger us to take another look at their work, where they'll say, "Oh, well, I didn't want to have to listen to that 3 times." Like, "What? What do you mean?" Like, that's your job. Like, and not every audio is perfect, right? Because there's different scenarios for everything. Someone doing research at NYU might be in a coffee shop in Manhattan with a ton of background noise, and then that same person might be in the library at NYU in a closed conference room with no background noise and perfect audio. We can't predict that. So the transcriptionists have to know that some of it's good, some of it's not good. I have to deal with it. Some of it I'll get done really quickly and make more money because I get more done faster, and some I won't make as much money because the audio is not as good. It's the people that roll with the punches, and they're like what you said in the beginning. They take pride in their work. They know they're helping people too. Most of the work we do has ramifications, like I said before, beyond what their surface right in front of you. Like, the research could be cancer research, it could be AIDS research, all kinds of stuff that will help down the road at some point.
It matters. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So what has been, and I know you can't really talk for the industry or other companies, but in your company, what's been the typical longevity of the people that you work with?
Do the transcription, or that we provide transcription services for?
The ones that do the work.
Oh man, we've had a few for a little over 10 years now, and I bet because I add them to the direct deposit. I add a new one maybe every 3 months, and we delete maybe 3 or 4 or 5 a year. So it kind of breaks even. We maintain about 50-ish. Obviously, we'd like that to be more. That means we're growing faster and more. Um, but yeah, they stay. I bet they stay 4 to 5 years on average. The good ones that we like and do a lot of work, yeah, 4 or 5 years.
Are these people, I'm just kind of curious, if you look at the profile of someone who comes in to do this work, is this like they love doing this? I mean, I guess some could be just a job, you might have high turnover, but the ones that stay, is this like their jam? They just love doing it. What have you found since you've been doing this work?
It's more of they really love it and they want to see things through. So they'll they'll get 4 interviews from a specific researcher at UPenn, and they happen to like this research and they're interested in it. They'll email and say, "I want all of those interviews from that researcher at UPenn that I just did the first 4. Like, I want the rest of those." Or, "I want all of that detective's interviews for that, you know,
That
whatever
case or whatever.
kidnapping."
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll and they wanna see it through. And I mean, it's like true crime for real or research for real. Like they're literally learning firsthand what's actually happening.
That is absolutely fascinating. And are that so you got 50, roughly 50, right? Are they all over the country
Yes, all
or
over the
in one,
US.
or are they, because you're in Denver,
Yes,
Aurora, right? Yeah.
we're based in Denver. There's 5 of us in the office here in Denver, but actually don't have any transcriptionists in Denver. Yeah, we don't. We used to in Conifer, but she retired.
And those of you that don't know where that is, it's kind of in the foothills of the mountains. So it's, 20, 30 minutes outside of Denver. So what is the hardest part then? Because you've got, the majority of people all over. What is the hardest part of leading a company where most of your people are not in the same place?
Communication, and a lot of it. A ton of communication. They prefer email. They work from home, and we email them a lot. So 3 of the people in the office are part of the operations team, and they each work with a different set of the transcriptionists, and they're constantly in communication with them about incoming files, where they are on certain projects for whatever clients they work for, and it's all day long. "How's this going? Do you need help? This is due tomorrow. Where are you?" "Do we need to bring in some other people?" All that. It's all the time. So I'd say
Give it-
communication.
Yeah, that's got to be fascinating. Running remote. How do you keep people motivated and not
We incentivize them.
getting them? Okay,
Yeah, if they do
such
a
as
certain number of audio minutes or hours per month, they get bonuses, and we send them cards in the mail. We try to do 4 a year, once a quarter. So I happen to like St. Patrick's Day, so that's the 1st quarter. 4th of July is the 2nd quarter. The 3rd quarter is kind of a random. Sometimes it's Halloween, sometimes it's Labor Day, and the 4th quarter is obviously Christmas/Thanksgiving holidays. We send them a card where we literally sign it ourselves. Oh, we send them birthday cards too, and anniversary cards, and we'll throw in gift cards and company T-shirts, sweatshirts, koozies, notepads, pens. We send them all that kind of stuff to help them, you know, feel a little bit more connected, even though they could be in Florida or North Carolina or Oregon, because we do know that they probably feel disconnected being, far away and having never met any of us in person.
crazy. Do you end up doing Zoom calls, team calls in addition to email, or is that not necessary?
It's not totally necessary, and it's rare that we do video Zoom calls with them because they don't want to. They've literally told us they'd rather not be on video. They work from home. They may not. I would imagine they probably don't get dressed up every day. They Yeah, we've tried. They prefer not. So we
Uh, you
don't.
know, it's finding those people that thrive in this environment and certain personalities, I imagine, strength is your weakness, right? And weakness is your strength. It's, you they're so good at what they do, but it's like the reason I'm doing that and I'm not out in sales or account development is I want to work from home and I like being on the computer or listening to an audio, right? It's so they found their jam, they found their fit.
Yes, and I can't tell you how many have turned us down from full-time employment because they like the independent contractor setup and freedom to go to Mexico with their significant other for a month. And if they were an FTE, they may not have that luxury. So they don't want to be tied down because we've tried hiring the really good ones that produce a lot of work because we want, and I'm willing to pay them more than what they make as independent contractors. We want the peace of mind, right? That we know this person will do 47 hours of audio a month, and we can count that off right away every month. and they don't want it. And I've tried. I bet 10 people have turned me down in the past 10 years that we've tried to hire. And I call them. I
Interesting.
have calls with all of them myself, and they've normally not talked to me until that call. And then they're like, "Oh, you own the company and you're calling me?" And I'm like, "Yes, I want to hire you." And they're like, "Oh, I don't want a job." Okay. And they're still with us. They're still independent contractors and they're still good at their
But
jobs.
they like that life. Yeah, that's pretty wild. Let me ask you, I think we had talked a little bit before the podcast that sometimes you might bring on an agency or there might be a big case, let's say it's law enforcement, and that might create a spike in work. Um, how do you how do you think about planning and risk without driving yourself crazy when you have to ramp up to be able to handle a spike in work?
Well, we ask the independent, even though they're independent contractors, we still ask them for a little cooperation about when they plan on going out of town and for how long. And if a lot of them have kids, some of them might be in high school or college and they have graduations coming up. We ask them to tell us about that so we know who's in town and who's not in town. So the scenario that you said, like, let's pretend that I don't know, Lakewood PD has a massive, drug bust and they need us to transcribe 100 hours of audio. And they don't forewarn us because they don't know that it's going to happen and we don't know that it's going to happen. We will look at our spreadsheets to see who's in town, who's not in town. We then see what we're paying them per minute of audio and we'll bump it up 10 or 15 or 20% and then email the ones that are available and say, "Hey, we need to get this 100 hours done in the next 7 days. Can you take 20 of it, work all weekend, work 12-hour days? We're going to bump your pay 20%." We know who is available and who's willing to do that. Because some of them are like, "I'm sorry, I can't help. I have 3 kids in high school that have practices every day and games every weekend." So we know they can't help and we won't ask them. But we also know who can help and who is available and who's willing to, because some of them love it. Like you tell them that there's 100 hours of audio for a huge drug bust, and they'll say, "I want 25 hours. I will work 18-hour days for the next week. I don't care. I want to know."
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Is there is there added stress for you, or are you doing 20 years? Is it like, no, it always works out?
Uh, there's a little stress. It's not so much me as it is for the director of operations and his team. They're more stressed than I get. Because they're the ones that are contacting the transcriptionists and dealing with who's available, who's not available, who can take what, and they are also communicating with the client directly. So they would be communicating with however many detectives there are at Lakewood working that case, or if they've brought in an assistant chief or something, they'll be communicating with that person too, constantly updating them and sending them back work as it gets done. And trying to alleviate any fear from the other end, or I don't want to say anything out of place here, but sometimes you can see the urgency in their emails and, "Hey, where are we? Hey, this interview is really important." Trying to be calming that it's coming. It'll be done by 4 o'clock. I apologize. We thought it would be done by noon, but it'll be done by 4. So they can keep planning and keep moving ahead with what they're doing because they're getting pressure from the higher ups in their jobs, and then they're reaching out to us. So we try to make sure we're in front of that, and then also knowing how to talk to them and not upsetting them. Because we don't want them
Or
to.
make them worry,
Yes.
right? Still having the confidence that you're competent and that you can deliver.
Yeah, and you know what it's like when someone says they'll get back to you by the end of the day and they don't, and it's really important, and you can't stop thinking about it because you
Yeah.
were expecting that person to get back to you, and now they're not, and you may have to go somewhere else tomorrow if they don't get back to you. Like we don't want to be that guy. We're gonna get back to you regardless. even if it's bad news, if we won't have it done on time for some reason, we still get back to them so they know, and it's not lingering.
That's
Like, we don't want it lingering.
staying in touch, staying in communication. Yeah. Where do you
Yes.
feel you've been doing this 2 decades, 20 years, if is that right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Where do you feel you're still maybe figuring things out in real time as a CEO?
Marketing is changing dramatically, with how people are finding us. We relied on search engine optimization for a long time for inbound clients finding us inbound, and that's changing pretty quickly. It's not as the same as it was. So I'd say marketing, because we've tried Google ads, we've tried Facebook ads, we've tried traditional marketing where we mail brochures in in the US mail. We've tried postcards. It'll work and then it won't work. And then, now we're circling back around to trying Facebook ads again, and it's been 10 years because the first time it worked for a minute and then it stopped. And so we got away from it. And search engine optimization worked really well for a long time. And now that's not working as well. So, yeah, staying with up to date on marketing and growth to keep the growth happening.
Is most of the business inbound or outbound? Meaning you do marketing, they do a search and they find you? Or is there any outbound where you reach out to, let's say, police departments or agencies and say, we're here? What, how do you, what have you found works? And how do you do it?
Most of our new leads are inbound and they find us online. We do have a director of sales that is a couple offices down from me in the office here in Denver. He calls police departments, sheriff's offices, universities, and then sends them stuff in the mail. That's a longer play because we're calling them unsolicited. The ones that call us, they need it now. So the ones that we're calling to, it takes longer to close those because they don't know about us yet. Um, I'd say it's 90-10. 90% come in, 10% are outbound.
What about trade shows,
We're starting
conferences?
to
Is
do
there
those
anything
again.
there?
Yeah, we are starting to do those again, and it's in and around a cooperative price agreement that we were awarded a couple years ago. That's a national entity, um, and that's meant for governments, state and below. So like the state of Colorado, and then anything below that, like say the city of Denver, or even a smaller municipality like Cherry Hills Village could use this cooperative price agreement. So we're starting to go to conferences where procurement professionals go that know about cooperative price agreements and utilize them for their cities and states and counties to make them aware that we're an option and that they can use this cooperative price agreement.
That's cool. That's really cool. A couple more questions here. One is, the name of this podcast is Inside the Leader's Mind, and the tag is What's in the Way Becomes the Way. Looking back at the last 20 years, what is something that was in the way, an obstacle you hit, but you realized once you figured it out that truly was the way to greater success?
Um,
And
I
it could
this
be it could be about the business, it could be your own mindset, could be anything.
I mhm, this might sound self-deprecating, but I think it was me. And then once I got, and this is, you and I have not talked about this, but once I got a business coach who helped me figure out what I didn't know and helped me through some situations, that opened up a lot of doors and realizations about HR, when to hire, when to fire. Do you really need another person? Do you not need another? You know what like how to vet people, trust but verify. You know, Just because someone says something in an interview doesn't mean it's true. You know, and I used to just believe everybody. Like, um, I don't know, does that answer the question kind of? Maybe?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it was like you said, it's you. And once you got better, you figured it out. How about this? For leaders who sometimes feel alone at the top, what kind of outside support or conversations do you think they avoid, but they actually need?
They need to talk about the issues they're having with, say, their employees with someone else who's done it or is doing it. Other business owners, coaches, mentors. I'm in a couple different business owner groups that have active. One is a WhatsApp. It's on WhatsApp, and the other one is on Facebook. And you can post questions in there. You can answer other people's questions, and those have been very helpful. Like, hey, I have this employee that said he's going to be gone for 2 weeks. He's been gone for 3 weeks. He's one of my best people. I'm not sure what to do. He's been here 5 years. I think he's interviewing somewhere else. He's extremely important to the whatever division, and then someone or so more than one person will chime in and say, "Oh, I had this happen. This is how I dealt with it." And you'll get a bunch of different opinions and possibly phone numbers. Hey, call me. I can help you through this. You know, it's actually doing those conversations and having those conversations and not being scared to ask other people for help with whatever it is you need help with, and not keeping it inside and thinking you'll be able to figure it out, or Google knows the answer, or Chat GPT knows the answer. They don't. Like, your fellow business owners, coaches, business coaches, or mentors actually know the answer.
It can be lonely at the top, especially if you're a lone wolf. And mind, which is why some people go into their own business and entrepreneurship, and they try to be the head. Is that's the way they work best. They don't work with others as well, and so I think that's fantastic advice. I love that. Um, Let me wrap with one last question here. What's a question you wish people would ask you, but they don't know to ask you? But secretly, you're like, man, I wish people would ask me this question.
Well, I think you already asked me earlier about AI. Everyone thinks AI can do everything, and it can't. It like I was saying about the perfect transcript and the formatting and things like that. Like, people don't think about that kind of thing. They just think, oh, the transcript I got from that podcast was perfect. And if you were to compare that to an actual transcript done by one of our people and saw them side by side, you would be flabbergasted at how bad the AI transcript is.
So do
And no
people
one's
already ask? Are they already asking you that question, or is there a question people don't ask you and you wish they did?
yet, well, they don't ask because they think AI is perfect.
Oh, got it.
They're like, "Oh, we don't need you. We have AI does all that for us." I'm like, "No, it
Oh.
doesn't do it. It kinda does it, but it doesn't do it very good."
So they just make the assumption.
Yes, because they use it. They'll use it for their own purposes, like, they'll record all their conference calls or all their
Right.
interviews, and they'll drag and drop everything into GPT and then think that that's good. And I'm like, "That's a terrible transcript. Have you looked at that? Like, it's horrible." But they just take it for what it is, and they're like, "I can't believe your company still has clients." I'm like, "Well, you obviously don't know what a good transcript looks like."
Interesting. Interesting. Does it worry you? I'm curious. Does the AI getting better and better, does it worry you at all?
No, because I think it will actually help us grow once it gets good enough, and the editing is faster than what we can type now. Because if we were to edit an AI transcript, it takes a really long time. Because transcriptionists are used to keeping their hands on the keyboard. They don't use the mouse ever because they have a foot pedal, headphones, and they keep their hands on the keyboard. When they're editing an AI transcript, they're using the mouse all the time to move the cursor all over to fix all the little mistakes. So right now, they can type faster than they can edit. Once we get to the point where we can edit faster than typing, we will be able to lower our prices and do more faster. So the 100 hours from Lakewood PD could be done in 4 days instead of 7 days because the editing will go much faster. And
Fascinating.
and it will be cheaper and more people will buy because it will be
Yeah.
cheaper and more affordable.
Yeah. What other, yeah, and one last question here. What other challenges do you see on the horizon in your industry?
Well, I hate to say this, and I don't want to predict the future because I don't know that anyone really can, but the economy doesn't seem to be doing all that well right now. Like people are spending less. So I think some of our clients will spend less that we've worked with for years and that normally would spend, say, 80,000 a year on transcription. Next year they may spend 60,000. And it's not because they don't like us, it's because their budget has been cut. So
So but don't they need it?
they'll figure it out. You know what I mean? They'll say, we only have 60 grand next year instead of 80. We're going to have to do some in house, or we're going to prioritize major felonies and not all felonies, or something like that.
Until something comes back and bites them because of one word.
Yes. Or a detective gets burnt out because he's transcribing his own interviews and he's working, 60, 70, 80 hours. And he's finally like, I can't do this anymore. Like,
So now they're becoming admins on top of their current job.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Well, fascinating insight, Ben. I so appreciate it. If someone wants to learn more about you, your services, what's the best way for them to get to you?
the best way to get to us is through our website at dittotranscripts.com. Filling out the contact form there because we'll get to that as quickly as possible, assuming it's not like 4 in the morning. We'll reply within, 5 to 15 minutes. Or if they call during normal business hours between 8 and 5, we answer every single phone call. None of them go to voicemail. That is not what we do. We answer every call. And I'm on LinkedIn at Benjamin K. Walker.
And I'll put all the notes for that in the contact information in the show notes for this. Well, Ben, thank you so much for being with me. What a pleasure getting insight. And thanks for clarifying, because that was my thought, AI. And so for you to clarify that and just talking about how you deal with remote workforce, just fascinating. So thank you for being with me today.
You're welcome, David. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Folks, thank you for listening or watching. This is Inside the Leader's Mind. I'm David Susan. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, please share, and join us next time. Thanks, folks.